Hello everyone, I am Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com. Today we have another hand played by one of my students at 1-3 No Limit Hold'em. There was a previous hand that my student showed me where this player elected to not bet for value with a pretty obvious value hand whenever a kind of scary river card came. So this player is a little bit on the passive side, a little bit on the weak side. So keeping that in mind, let's go through and play this hand. So this kind of weak, kind of passive player raises to $10 pre-flop. With 8-7 offsuit in the big blind, look, if the rake is high in your game, like say if you see the flop, you know the house is going to take $6 out of the pot, I would just fold immediately. You cannot be defending your blinds too wide when the rake is high, but if the rake is small / manageable, like say you're in Las Vegas at Aria or somewhere like that, then you can call, see the flop, and go from there because the rake will be $2 or $3, not too substantial. We do call, flop comes queen, jack, 6. We're going to check. If our opponent bets, we're just check folding because we have literally nothing. It goes check, check though. Okay. So knowing from the past that this player did not value bet an obvious value bet hand, what can we deduce from that? We can deduce that probably this player either has nothing or has something like a marginal queen or worse, maybe queen 10 or worse, or a hand like ace jack most likely, a hand like ace jack, king jack, jack 10, jack 9, etc. Question then becomes, will they fold those hands to enough aggression? And this is where I think a lot of people go very wrong. They look at our 8-7, they say, all right, we have a very obvious draw, we should bet it. Which I think is fine. With your draws, you should bet it to try to get fold equity. However, I just outlined for you that this player likely has a marginal made hand. So if you bet the turn, do you think they're going to fold? No, they're not going to fold. Does that mean we should not bluff the turn? Not necessarily. Question becomes, how will they play on the river? And if you think you'll be able to get your opponent to fold a queen or a jack by the river, which I know may sound insane, but some very, very weak players will fold those hands, then we should definitely be betting the turn normally and then blasting the river big. If you think your opponent will always call the turn with a queen or jack, we should just check. Because if our opponent will just let us check it down with a queen or a jack, great. If they blast the turn, well, we can probably still stick around because we have a lot of implied odds. So you see, we can go either way depending on the opponent's exact tendencies. Now, I don't have any sort of great read on this player besides we saw them just like play a pretty strong hand weakly previously, which makes me think they probably undervalue their hands. If our opponent undervalues their hands, like I said, we would need more information to give you a clear answer. But given I have 8 high, very obvious straight draw, this seems like a spot to go for the bet and then blast on the river. And let's see what my student does. They do go nice size on the turn. You're going to get called very often here, unless the opponent has like ace high or maybe pocket 10s or worse. Even then, like pocket 10 should obviously call. River is a 7. Oh boy. Now, you may look at this and say, we have showdown value. Great, now we can just check and let it go check, check. But think about the range I just told you that the opponent has. They probably have a queen or a jack or maybe like pocket 9s. How does a 7 do against a queen, a jack, or pocket 9s? Well, it turns out it loses. We lose to almost our opponent's entire range here besides maybe ace king, ace 10, and like pocket 4s that decided to get sticky on the turn, but that probably just folds. So even though we have a made hand, a pair of 7s, we actually lose to almost everything now. So again, the question becomes, can I get my opponent to fold out that queen or the jack? When I started betting the turn, I had the idea in my head that we were going to be bluffing on the river the vast majority of the time, and this 7 doesn't actually change anything. If anything, it actually makes a few of the draws get there. The random 4-3 gets there. The random 9-8 gets there. The 7-6 makes 2 pair that should value bet. The 7-5 gets there that should value bet. The random queen 5 suited got there, right? So we certainly do have some bluffs here. If we do bluff, we have some value bets. Because we have value bets, we get to have some bluffs, assuming we care about being balanced. But in reality, I don't think I even care about being balanced against this player. I'm going to bet, and I'm going to bet using a big size. We are trying to get a queen or a jack to fold. Another thing a lot of people do wrong here is they bet $30. You think a queen or a jack's folding for $30 into a $50 pot? No, it's not. But what about to a $85 bet? Now, these weak, tight, scared players are going to think, oh man, they have the random 7-6 or they have the random 4-3. I don't really care what they put us on as long as it's better than a queen or a jack. So I definitely like a big bet in this spot. I would probably go something like $80. My student goes 65, so pretty big. Should we go slightly bigger? I think it's probably better to go a little bit bigger, but I like this bet size. You don't want to start going much lower than this, though, because then top pair, middle pair is just going to find a hero call, and when it finds a hero call, obviously that's terrible for us. You may say, but when we bet big, don't we lose a lot whenever we get called? Yes, we do. But in reality, how often do you think you're really getting called here by someone who we have outlined as someone who drastically undervalues their hands and is afraid that their opponents always just have whatever the nuts is? I think these players are going to fold way more often than normal. I have a lot of data that shows that happens online when you use sizable river bets, not half pot bets, not third pot bets, but big bets. And, well, what happens this time? This time we do get a fold. The opponent does fold in this instance. Hero collects a nice pot. Opponent shows the queen 10. Now, this is obviously nitty. The opponent should not fold the queen 10. You may say, my opponents never fold queen 10. Well, I will say you probably aren't betting 1.5x pot on the river either, are you? You're betting a third pot on the river, 2/3 pot on the river, or even pot on the river. But also, this is a bad fold, and it's okay to make plays that take advantage of the mistakes your opponents make. That's how you make money from poker. When your opponents screw up, you make money by making whatever play maximally exploits them. This is not a hand from a tough, high-stakes cash game. Go back a few videos ago on Poker News, and you'll find some of those hands that I made from high-stakes cash games where we were really concerned about balance. Here, we're not concerned about balance at all. I'm only overbetting this scenario as a bluff, and I am expecting this bluff to get through a large chunk of the time. Now, if you do make this bet and your opponent just trivially throws in the 65 bucks or whatever it was for a call, okay, you learned a lesson. Don't try to bluff this person. Now, you want to instead flip that thought process on its head and now go for value. If you have something like king, queen or better, go for value. And you can use big sizes because you know your opponent's going to be very calling stationy when they check back the flop, call a turn bet, and the river's kind of a blank. Going back to the opponent's pre-flop range, or flop range, by the way, remember how I said when it goes check on the flop, they're going to have something like queen 10 or worse? Well, if the opponent's going to fold queen 10 on the river, that means this bet our hero made actually gets them to fold almost their entire range. And whenever you can get your opponent to fold almost their entire range, you should probably go for it because you just collect the whole pot every single time just by using a little bit of aggression. Or in this case, 1.3x pot aggression. So that's what we get for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let the people at Poker News know on Twitter at Poker News. Also, click like, click subscribe. I would appreciate that. That lets YouTube know that you like my work. And if you don't like my work, go watch somebody else's. There's a lot of great content out there. Have fun. Good luck in your games. And I will talk to you next time.